Jay-Z is known today as the rap game's first billionaire. And even though he's one of the greatest rappers of all time, his ability to make money in the business world is just as legendary. But before all the success, Jay had a wild come up in Brooklyn and even shot his own brother when he was just 12 years old. This is the crazy story of how it all went down. Jay grew up in a housing project called the Marcy Houses in Brooklyn. There's a lot of rough neighborhoods in the area, but the Marcy Houses were one of the wildest places in the city. Jay was surrounded by crime and violence as a kid, and he jumped off the porch at a young age. When he was around 10 years old, Jay's Uncle Ray was stabbed to death at the Sumner Houses in Brooklyn. His dad couldn't handle losing his brother, and he ended up turning to alcohol and heroin to cope with the pain. What made the situation even worse is that people in the area knew who took Ray out, but nobody would speak up and drop the name. Jay's dad abandoned the family a couple years later, and Jay raps about it on the track Moment of Clarity. He said, "So Pop, I forgive you for all the shit that I lived through. It wasn't your fault, homie, you got caught into the same game I fought, that Uncle Ray lost, my big brothers, and so many others I saw." After Jay's dad left, his mom had to take care of Jay, his older brother, and two sisters all by herself. While their family was falling apart, Jay saw his community getting worse and worse during the crack epidemic. In his book Decoded, Jay talks about how kids his age were walking around with machine guns, selling crack to pay their mother's electricity bills. By the time Jay was 12, his older brother was already addicted to crack, and Jay was walking around with a strap on him. In an interview, he talks about how guns were just everywhere in the neighborhood, and his neighbors were getting into shootouts all the time. Jay got his gun from his homie Jaz-O, who was Jay's mentor back in the day and helped him learn how to spit bars. Jaz was even the inspiration for Jay's name, and they came up in the same housing projects. Even though Jay was only 12 years old at the time, Jaz let him borrow a gun because of how wild the Marcy houses were. A girl in the neighborhood had bought Jay a ring, which is what eventually led to him shooting his own brother. Jay's older brother had allegedly been stealing from the family to fund his crack addiction, and he ended up taking Jay's ring too. When Jay confronted him about it, his brother took too long to give an explanation for the missing ring, and that's when Jay grabbed his gun and told his brother to step outside. When he did, Jay closed his eyes and let off a shot, hitting his brother in the shoulder. He referenced the situation on the track You Must Love Me, where he said, "As we grew, fussing and fighting continued. As I plundered through your stuff and snuck it close to school. Got intense, real intense as we got older. Never believed it would lead to me popping one in your shoulder." Jay said he didn't actually want to do anything, but his brother wouldn't back down, so he ended up shooting him in front of their sisters and a girl who bought the ring. On the track, he said, "As Mickey, Annie, and the girl that bought it looked on, huffing and puffing, gun in my hand, told you step outside. Hoping you said no, but you hurt my pride. Made our way down the steps, maybe you thought it was just a threat, or maybe your life was just that crazy and you was begging for death." Jay had been around gun violence all his life, but this was the first time he pulled the trigger himself. In an interview with The Guardian, he said he thought his life was over and that he'd be sent to jail forever. According to him, the betrayal he felt from his brother was just too much to take, and that's why he shot. On the same track, he raps, "Try to justify this in my young mind, but the adrenaline and my ego hurt combined drove me berserk, saw the devil in your eyes. High off more than weed. Confused, I just closed my young eyes and squeezed." After he shot his brother, Jay ran to Jazz's house and told him what happened. Jazz was only around 17 at the time, but he still took the burner off of Jay to help him through the situation. Back in January, Jazz did an interview with Vlad TV and said he never expected that Jay would shoot his own brother with the gun he gave him. According to him, back then having a gun was a sign of brotherhood with the street, and when Jay asked for the gun, he had no idea the situation would turn out like that. On You Must Love Me, Jay talks about running away and how ashamed he was for how he acted. He said, "What a sound. Opened my eyes just in time to see it stumbling to the ground. Damn, what the f I done now? Running around in a circle, thinking I'm masked out. Hot gun burning my waist, ran straight to Jazz's house. Like a stranger, damn, I just shot my and ran off into the night as if it was not my Left the scene, how could I go out that way? Still you asked to see me in the hospital the next day." Jay told The Guardian, "It was terrible. I was a boy, a child. I was terrified. But luckily his brother decided not to press charges and even apologized to him when Jay saw him in the hospital." Even though he saw firsthand what crack could do to people, Jay started slanging it himself when he was 13. He was reading dictionaries and writing rhymes in his free time, but he still had both feet in the trenches, moving weight around New Jersey and Maryland. One time, Jay went to meet his homie in Trenton, New Jersey to link up with a supplier, but ended up getting caught by the cops with crack on him. Jay didn't have a record, so they let him go without arresting him, but he did lose his whole supply. He still had to pay his plug, so Jay spent 3 days straight slinging crack in the Marcy houses. For 60 hours, all he did was sell crack, eat cookies, and write rhymes on the back of brown paper bags. Jay never admitted to shooting anyone else, But that didn't mean he wasn't affected by gun violence. In the interview with The Guardian, he said there were shootouts going on all the time, but he never shot another person after his brother. One day, someone tried to take Jay out and let off 3 shots less than 6 feet away from him. But luckily, every bullet missed, and he made it out of the situation alive. On the same track he talks about shooting his brother, Jay also talks about how much he hated crack and how he was involved with it. He raps, "I hated me and everybody that created crack. Had me thinking the newest kicks and the latest gap. Still haven't apologized, so please play this back. While I try to come to terms with such a heinous act, you know in more than one way, cocaine numbs the brain. All I did was think about how the funds once came." Eventually, Jay made it out of the streets and became the most successful rapper of all time. But back in 1999, he proved that he still wasn't the one to mess with. At the time, Jay was getting ready to drop his latest album, but somebody had leaked a bootleg copy of it. It's not clear why, but Jay thought a record exec named Lance Rivera was the one who leaked it. On December 1st, 1999, Jay ran into Rivera at Q-Tip's album release party, and that's when the situation went left. Jay confronted Rivera, and Jay says he got real loud with me right there in the middle of the club. Then Jay went to the bar, but the beef didn't end there. According to Jay, before he realized what was even happening, he was walking back toward Rivera. Jay allegedly pulled out a 5-inch knife and stabbed Rivera in the stomach, then turned himself in the next day. At first, he pleaded not guilty to the charges, but later he pleaded guilty to 3rd-degree assault and got hit with 3 years of probation. Jay knew he had to switch up how he moved if he really wanted to make it in the game, and in his book Decoded, he wrote, "There was no reason to put my life on the line. I vowed to never allow myself to be in a situation like that again." Luckily, Jay learned his lesson and has avoided getting caught up like that ever since. Even though he came up in one of the roughest projects during the height of the crack epidemic, Jay was able to level up and become one of the most famous rappers of all time, and a crazy successful businessman too. A lot of people who come up in that kind of environment never make it out, but Jay fought through the times and made it out on the other side. Even shooting his own brother didn't stop his grind, and luckily they made up and have a good relationship now. Jay had a wild come up selling crack as a young kid, but he beat the odds and became more successful than anyone could have imagined.